Welcome to Modern Word Ministries. I'm Deacon Tom Moore, and on behalf of my wife Kim and myself, we want to welcome you. And just to let you know that whether you're here in person or you're tuning in on social media, we appreciate that you have chosen to spend a little bit of your day with us. Before we get to this week's message, just a couple of quick things I'd like to cover. You know, we have an amazing website, and everything you want to do with us and we want to do with you can be found there. You can get on our prayer list on the website, you can do your tithes and offerings over the website, or you can communicate with us. I love feedback, my wife loves feedback. Tell us how we're doing, tell us what you need, tell us what you're looking for in your church, because this is your church. I shepherd this church, but it's your church. So before we start with the message, just a couple of things. First, if you're in need of prayer, or if you know someone who's in need of prayer, go to our website at modernwordministries.org and put in a prayer request. It's very simple to follow. We will get back to you within 48 hours. It's all anonymous, it's confidential, and we will get back to you. I promise you that. We will put you on the prayer list, and we will pray for you every single day, because that's what we do, because we're a praying church. Secondly, tithes and offering. You know, an important part of being a Christian is giving your tithes and offerings to the Lord. And there are a number of scriptures that tell us why that is so important. But I'm here to tell you, we have made this so easy, so simple. Just go to our website and click on the tab that says support this ministry. It'll take you from there. It's so easy, even I could do it. So again, thanks for coming out today. And now here's this week's message. Good morning. Welcome to Modern Word Ministries. I'm Deacon T, and I'm going to be bringing you the Word of God today. Today's subject is called Shake Off the Dust. And it really came to me this past week while I was watching some news and I was watching some current events and things on TV, and actually was watching people who were involved in these crazy acts of violence that had all started because somebody did something or attempted to do something that they didn't agree with. And in particular, it was the story of this young man who inadvertently went to the wrong door and was knocking on the door, and he ended up being shot. Or this young cheerleader who went to the wrong car in the parking lot, and the guy got out of the car and shot her. And it really wasn't those types of activities that drove me to this title, but it got me thinking about how, as people, we seem to be so on edge, so just right on the edge. And anything that happens to us, anything that someone else says, anything that someone else does, just sets us off. It just makes us go over the edge, many times to the land of no return. And I was thinking about a topic, a title, and I thought of this biblical passage, and I'm going to read it in a moment, and then I'm going to relate it back to how we live today. So in Matthew, there's a verse in the 10th chapter, 14th verse, and what's happening is Jesus is sending his apostles out to preach to people and to spread the word. And very often they were not well received. And people would heckle them, and people would mess with them, and people would call them names, and people would throw things at them, and so forth. And what Jesus told them was, rather than getting your feelings hurt, rather than getting all upset, just shake it off and move on, and just keep it going. And don't allow these other people and their issues to mess with you. So I'm going to read this verse, very short, in Matthew 10 and 14. And it says, and again, remember, he's talking to his apostles and disciples about what happens if you go out into the communities and you're not well received. And he said, and whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words, When ye depart out of that house or city, shake off the dust of your feet. So what he's telling them is, basically, just knock the dust off and keep it moving. Like it's not important. If they don't want to hear, you can't make them hear. If they don't want to be saved, you can't make them be saved. If they don't want to get the message, they're not going to get it. You know, a good friend of mine used to always say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I'll let you think about that. But you and I both know, and if you're a parent, you definitely know, you can be on your kids and on your kids and on your kids about something, and it never seems to go anywhere. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, they will be repeating back to you what you thought they didn't hear. And that's because when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But in this case, I'm thinking about our life, your life, my life. You know, everybody out there has an opinion anymore. And they have access, unfortunately, via social media to just get right at you. And people say the darndest things. They think they can say and do anything without any repercussions or ramifications. They think they can call you out of your name. They think they can straight up lie about you. They talk about you like they know you when they've never met you. They post things on social media as if they were truths, when in fact they are their own personal opinions, very often, most often, not even situated in fact. And what do? How do we respond? Well, I don't know about you, but sometimes I don't respond like I'd like to respond. Sometimes I get a little too excited. Sometimes I want to straighten things out, make the record right, turn things around, clear things up, or put somebody in their place. And if you listen to what Jesus was saying in Matthew, it is the absolute wrong thing to do. Yet, I'm not going to say you do it, but many of us do it. Many of us do it. And quite frankly, they don't care. And this is what I want to talk about today. You know, back in the biblical days, there were these people, and they called them slingers, like slinging. And what would happen was when one group or one tribe or one gang wanted to take over a city, they would get these people who were slingers, and they would go to the walls that surrounded the city, and they would begin taking stones off of the wall, and they would put them in these slingshots, and they would sling these stones, and they would attempt to shoot them straight into the wells. And they would, over time, fill the well up with rocks and stones so that the people in the village couldn't access the water. Well, if you were living in northern Africa in the desert, you needed water or you weren't going to last very long. Well, when the wells got plugged up with the rocks because the slingers were slinging their stuff, you had no choice but to leave the protection of the walls of your village in order to go find more water, and then the enemy would jump on you and do whatever it was they did. And I'm going to suggest to you that there are a lot of slingers out there today. There are people out there today who want to clog up your well. I'm talking about your personal well. They want to clog up your well with junk. And very often, it isn't even your junk. It's their junk. You see, I have found that people that want to talk about others are very, very often just jealous of the position that the other person has. The wife they have, the job they have, the money they make, the car they drive, the house, the whatever. And because they don't have it, or can't figure out how to get it, or aren't willing to do the work, they would rather tear down someone who has been successful than they would spend that time and energy trying to figure out how to be successful themselves. You know, I don't know if you've noticed, but the more successful you are, the higher you rise, the bigger a target you become. And in this world, and because of social media it's so easy to do, People, and I don't know why this is, we are so on edge to want to snap. We want to talk about other people, or we want to respond when other people talk about us. Don't do it. It's not good. In fact, it's really unhealthy for you. You see, what this is all about is your own internal sense of self, your own internal sense of self-worth and of being, and your own internal sense of peace and calm and quiet. Why do you need that internal sense of peace, calm, and quiet? So that you can remain focused on your assignment, remain focused on the job that God has given you to do, and to not get hung up by these people who are slinging rocks at your well. You know they're out there, and there's a lot of them. And if you engage with all of them, you're going to spend all your time fighting off people throwing rocks at you, when quite frankly, it doesn't make any difference if they throw those rocks. They don't even know you. They don't know who you are. They don't know anything about you. And they really can't hurt you. And that's the important thing to remember. You see, we seem to think sometimes if they say something about us that we don't like, that makes it real in some way, or that maybe somebody else will think it's real, or maybe somebody else will then listen to them. People who are truly your friends, people who truly care about you, who truly know you, they don't listen. They don't listen to the ravings of a lunatic person on the side who's slinging rocks. They know that that is just an unhappy, disgruntled little person who really lives a miserable, unhappy life themselves. But because they don't know how to make themselves happy or can't get happy, they want to see you miserable. My mom used to say, misery loves company. That's what I'm talking about here. Remember, not everybody out there is going to celebrate your success. Not everybody out there is going to like it that something good happened to you. But check this out. That's okay, because you don't need them. You do not need their approval. You need God's approval and God's approval only. See, think about Jesus' life and think about how people talked about him for just a minute. Think about who he hung out with. Think about who his closest associates were. There were guys like Peter who cursed and were rough and tough and not really good people. He had dinner with tax collectors. He had women who were caught in the act of adultery who he befriended. He had people who did all kinds of things, murderers, who he helped. Jesus even did work on the Sabbath. You remember when he healed the man on the Sabbath, brought him back. The point of that is people talked about him left and right all throughout his life. And what did he do? Nothing. He prayed for them. He prayed that they would just see the light and do the right thing. What he never did was engage them. And I am asking you today to be like Jesus. Don't engage these people who want to sling rocks. Don't engage these people. There's nothing there. You are engaging them in the hopes that somehow what? They're going to retract what they said? My friends, what they say doesn't matter. What they say has no credibility. You know it isn't true. God knows it isn't true. And the people around you who really know you and love you know it isn't true. So why lose your mind? Why lose your mind going after people who talk about you? Doesn't make any sense. You know, all of us have these things I'm calling wells inside of us. These are wells of joy, wells of peace, wells of victory, wells of self-confidence and achievement. Those things inside you that just make you feel good about yourself. that sense of achievement when you've done something and you know you've done your best and something good comes out of it. Well, the people who are slinging these rocks, they want to mess with us. They want to get under our skin. Why? Why do they want to do that? Because they want to see us down on their level. It makes them uncomfortable that you and I are doing well when they're not. Here's the thing. Anybody can throw rocks. Anybody. Very few of us seem to be able to withstand the temptation to throw rocks back. And that's really what this message today is about. Is about, as Jesus said, shake it off. Just shake it off. You know, you may remember that Paul at one time was with these people, and they were very, very hostile toward him. Very hostile toward him indeed. And he was trying to preach to them, and they didn't want to hear it. And you may remember, and I'll give you the scripture. He reached into the wood pile to get some wood to start a fire. And a snake, a very venomous snake, bit him on the wrist. And immediately, because he didn't die, the people who didn't like him to begin with started talking about him, saying he was the devil and he was cursed and so forth. And then later, they turned around and said, oh, he must be a man of God. In Acts 28:3, I'm going to talk about this for a moment. It says, and when Paul gathered a bunch of sticks and laid them on the fire, there came a viper out of the heat and fastened on his hands. So the snake bit him on the hand. And when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hang on the hand, they said among themselves, no doubt this man Paul is a murderer, whom, though he hath escaped the sea, making it over to where they were on this island, yet vengeance suffereth not to live. But Paul shook off the beast into the fire, and he felt no harm. Howbeit they looked when he should have swollen or fallen down dead suddenly. But after they had looked a great while and saw no harm come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god. So in other words, Paul got bit by the snake, he shook it off, and what happened to him? Nothing, because he was under the protection of God. He was doing God's work in his life, and because of that, no snake bite can get him. And I'm telling you, because you and I are here doing our best, not perfect, but doing our best to do the work of God, guess what? Those snakes, those slingers, those venomous people, those haters, backstabbers, backbiters, those people, shake them off. They may bite you, but it can't hurt you. Your hand won't swell. You won't get sick. You certainly won't die. No, not going to happen. Those people, like these people, like the snake with Paul, had no power over you. They don't. They really don't. I think it's critical that you and I maintain this godly position and that we don't take the bait, if you will, and follow the temptation to sink down to these people's level, to throw rocks at them. Because you see, all rock throwing takes place at this level down here. You and I are carrying on at this level because we are following God's will for our life. And when you're following God's will, you operate at a higher level of authority, a higher level of accountability, and a higher level of responsibility. Don't slough off. Don't go backwards and step back into the mess and start throwing rocks back. Because to throw the rocks, you got to get down in there with the snakes and the venom and the stink and the lowlifes and the haters and the backstabbers and the backbiters. Who wants to get in with them? No way. No way. Check it out. They're unhappy people. They are unhappy people. You just happen to be the person in front of them. And here's a real secret. This is Deacon T 101 for you. Ready? You can't make unhappy people happy. I don't care if you do exactly what they want you to do. They still won't be happy. They won't. And here's the tragedy. On top of that, you won't be doing what you're supposed to do for God. Uh-oh. Could be a problem. Might be an issue. Huh? For real now. For real now. You can't make unhappy people happy. All you can do is lose your focus on God's mission in your life. I don't think that's where you want to go. I don't think that's what you want to do. You see, life is too short. And you just separate yourself from people like that and love them. God says we're supposed to love everybody, but you love them from a distance. You don't bring the snake into the house. You don't bring the venom into the house. You don't bring the rock thrower into your house. And if they're in your house, get them out of there. Please. Because they cause problems. You see, here's a beautiful, beautiful thing. When you learn to ignore everybody who is not operating of God on your level, when you learn to ignore them, and I'm not talking about as people, I'm talking about ignore their foolishness, their rock slinging, their snake biting, all that stuff. When you just learn to ignore them, when you just shake it off, shake it off. When you learn to do that, I'm just going to tell you, that's where the real freedom in life is. When you can drive down the street and somebody cuts you off in traffic and you keep going like you didn't even see him. When somebody gives you the finger and you say, God bless you, and mean it, don't be like Deacon T used to be. Please, because I used to do that. To tell the truth on myself. People would do something crazy and I'd say, you have a blessed day now. And what I really meant was something else. That was like right after I got saved. I didn't have my act together quite right. I'm just telling on myself, keep it real, right? Look, when you can just shake it off, you find freedom that you've never had before. And you realize that most of the time, all this that's going on, it's not about you at all. This is the thing. Those people who are throwing the rocks, it isn't about you. The snake that's biting you isn't about you. It's about the issues that are going on inside of them. That's why, and I mean this so sincerely, I'm not being funny. We, the people who live a blessed, happy life, we, the people who operate on this level, we need to pray for those people who are slinging rocks because they are truly miserable. They aren't happy. They haven't found their purpose. They don't know where they're going. They're not on a mission. They haven't linked up with God like you and I have, and they need to. So what's our job? Not to throw rocks back, not to judge them, not to get in the pit with them. Heck no. It's to keep them at a distance and pray for them. Right? Why do they do it? Here's why. And I'm going to say this. You can say I'm full of it, but I think you're going to say, wow, you know what, Deacon T, you're right about that. Because when I've thrown rocks and I think about it, I'm going to fall into this category I'm talking about. People who are down here and functioning at this level and just aren't happy in their own life, they feel convicted by how you live, by the examples you set, by the morals and ethics and conducts and behaviors that you exhibit every day in your life that they don't exhibit. They cheat on their taxes, they steal a little here, they do a little something here, they do a little less. Sure, we all sin. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about people who are functioning on this level while you are functioning on that level. Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't want you or I don't want any of us. I don't want me to fall back in there. You see, these folks, they're struggling. And they want you to come in and struggle with them. Fight the temptation. Fight it off, you know? You can't get in with them. You just can't. See, when you can't, you know the frustration that you feel when you can't take somebody and make them happy? If you've ever had a boyfriend, a girlfriend, no matter what, and it just didn't work, and no matter what you did, they weren't happy, they weren't satisfied, they weren't okay, no matter what you did. And you tried to pull them up and make them happy, but it didn't work. Well, in the same way that you couldn't make an unhappy person happy, guess what? An unhappy person can't make you unhappy unless you follow them and become unhappy all on your own. You see, don't blame your spouse, your kids, your dog, your boss, your coworker, your sibling, because you're miserable. Please don't do that. I'm just going to tell you, it's embarrassing for you. Now, I'm telling you, maybe I'm the first one who's ever said that. It's embarrassing for you. You are blaming someone else for your lack of happiness. Look up the definition of happiness. I'm not talking about running around. Hee. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about true internal peace and joy. That. No one can make you like that, and no one can make you unhappy either. Only you can do that. You and God. Only you control that, because you control what you allow into your spirit. You control what you allow to take place inside of you. You control what it is you ingest into your happy place. What you put inside your wells. You control that. So my advice is, don't let the stuff in. It's so funny. You let it in long enough, next thing you know, you're talking about, oh, I'm not that happy, I'm not. You did it to yourself, brother. You did it to yourself. And I hate when I see it happen. And we all know people who we saw who just allowed life circumstances to suck them right down the drain. And I'm not saying sometimes life isn't hard. I'm not saying sometimes things go on that are terrible, terrible. I am right now, as we are speaking here today, I am counseling my son. Many of you know, many of you don't know, but my son's life partner passed away the other day, dropped dead of a heart attack, totally healthy guy, dropped dead at 40 years old. Dropped dead. My son is devastated. He wants to know why. He's angry. He wants, and I keep telling him the same thing I'm telling you. Don't go down in that pit. Don't go down in that venom. Don't go down where the snakes are. I understand being upset. I understand being sad. I understand being unhappy. For a while, I understand it all. But we need to keep our focus on God and what God is calling us to do. And as hard as this is for my son or for anyone else, we need to realize that no one leaves this earth unless their assignment is done and God says it's okay. No one. We don't understand it, we don't get it, and it makes us crazy because we don't. But it's not ours to know. Because if it was ours to know, we would know why a 40-year-old healthy young man had a massive heart attack and died at the airport. It makes no sense at all. So right now, this very thing is going on in my family. And I am pushing and praying my son to stay on this level. Even in his
emptiness, and even in his trauma, and even in his hurt and his pain, to realize that God is in control of everything. That God has got you, and you don't need to go fight those battles yourself. Absolutely. You see, we live in a world today and for a while where it's so easy to get distracted. My goodness. I mean, you can see all kinds of craziness. It's happening every minute of every day. And unfortunately, and I really mean this, unfortunately, you can go and see it. All you have to do is pull up the internet and you can see every kind of crazy thing that ever happened. Absolutely. And it can take you to a dark place. And it can get you distracted. And it can get you so you're off your game. You see, before we wrap up today, I want you to understand this. Distraction not only takes you off your focus, off your game, and gets you unfocused, but distraction, that negative kind of distraction, is extremely energy consuming. It's like leaving the headlights on in your car overnight on high beam. Well, you know what's going to happen. When you come out in the morning to go to work, you're going to have a dead battery. It's the same thing for your life. It's the same thing for my life. We cannot afford to waste energy and to lose energy by getting down in the muck and messing around with people who, quite frankly, just aren't on our level spiritually. It doesn't work. You can't stop people from talking. You can't stop people from DMing, from texting, from Instagram, from whatever it is. You can't stop it. Good luck. You know what you can do? Watch this. Ignore it. Ignore it. Don't give it life. Don't give it time. Don't give it presence. Don't give it any value. You see, when you take your precious time and your focus and spend it with something down here, you are giving value. You are saying by your actions, that must be worth something. Because surely a godly person like you or like me, wouldn't spend our valuable time, our precious, limited resource of time, messing around with things that added no value. Would we? Well, we shouldn't. We shouldn't. Absolutely not. You know, I'm going to say this. While Maria cues up our music before we pray, I remember distinctly when I started this ministry and I started preaching every Sunday, and we had the church. This is all before COVID. And I remember people would say things. And I'll just be honest and tell you, I was very nervous because I knew I was supposed to be doing it, but a little part of me didn't want to do it. And I was nervous. I wanted to do a good job. I wanted to do a good job because it's about God's work. And I wanted to do a good job because I had my face out there. And I wanted to represent myself and my family and God to the best of my ability. Not the best in the world, the best of my ability, whatever that is. And I just wanted to be that. And people would say things, and I would hear them, like after church, "Oh man, he ain't no T.D. Jakes, he ain't no Bishop House, he ain't." And I'd get all freaked out and weird and nervous and like, "Oh my God, they're not going to like me." And you know what? And God has, I'm telling you, God is so good. God has always got something going. It's amazing. It's just amazing. Because I remember going home and saying to my wife, and I'd be like, hey, was it okay, honey? Was it okay, honey? Was it okay, honey? And then I would say, because I heard somebody whispering, I heard somebody saying so-and-so, I heard this, I heard that. And she said to me, you need to read the Bible and what it says about what you're doing and what those people are doing. And I remember a couple of scriptures. And it said, one said, touch not my anointed and do my prophet no harm. Which means not just physically don't touch, don't put your mouth on God's man. Now, I may be a not very talented preacher. I may be a not very talented deacon. But I believe God told me to be here. And you're watching us. And you're here in person. So I believe that God told you that I had something for you. So when you say negative things about your pastor, me or any pastor, or deacon, or bishop, you need to be careful. Because you are putting your hands, in this case your mouth, touch not my anointed. Well, you're touching them with your tongue. And my wife said, and you need to check out another scripture. And I said, really, which one? The one that everybody knows. That is no weapon formed against me. I said, well, I know that. But you need to read on. And I'm going to read this for you. Isaiah 54:17, one of the most well-known scriptures that people quote the first sentence of like butter. It's like butter rolling off your lips. But they miss the second part. We'll help you with that today. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. And get ready. And every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment, thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of me, saith the Lord. Woo! Hello, somebody. Hello, somebody. I'm going to have to go back and put the Deacon T Modern Word Translation on the second part of that. We got the part where it says, no weapon which is formed against thee shall prosper. Everybody got that. But how about this part? Every tongue that rises up against us, you and me, people of God, every tongue that rises against us in judgment. In other words, in judgment, like, you ain't that good, you ain't much of a deacon, this guy this and that guy that. I heard this guy did this. Really? The people slinging the rocks? Every one of those people's whose tongue comes up against us, who says things against us in judgment, God will condemn. I'm feeling better already, okay? Are you with me? I'm feeling better already. God is going to condemn these people, these little backbiting, squirrely, snaky slime balls who want to get on social media, don't even have the guts to get in my face. That's right, you know the people. People that can tell a whole life story about you, ain't never met you. You know the people. People talk about, oh, he got a divorce, blah, blah, blah. Don't know any of the facts. Talk about his kids all off track, and he's supposed to be a deacon. Don't know any of the facts. That's right, those people. Every tongue that rises up against me, God's going to condemn. This is the heritage. This is what we get as servants of the Lord. And your and my righteousness, our ability to live strong and free, is taken care of by God. Now that is what God said in the Bible. So what in the heck are you doing and what am I doing sending texts back? Listen here, dude. Don't be saying smack about me. Blah, 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 blah. Brothers and sisters, for goodness sake, go to Isaiah 54:17. Look at the second part of that and learn that and put it in your daily practice and make it work for you, because God's got the fight. God's going to... I'm just telling you what it says in the Bible. You don't have to believe me. Believe Isaiah. Every tongue that messes with you, God's going to jam them up. Wow. So if God's got it handled, maybe you can relax. Maybe Deacon T can relax and just say, whatever, I'm praying for you, man, because you need prayer. That's right. You know what? This is just that simple. Shake off the dust. Shake off the bite. Shake off the venom. Shake off the little ankle biters. It means nothing. They can't get you. God's got you. I just read it for you. And you don't have to go back and get on them and jam them up and give them this. No, no, no. God's going to give it to them. God is going to condemn them. Think how horrible that is, to be condemned by God. Think how much worse that is than to be cussed out by Deacon T. Just think about that, would you? Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us out here today and for giving us some good modern word. We appreciate everything you've done and everything you're going to do. We're counting these blessings we have, and we're counting on the ones we know are coming, because we know you're bringing them, because you have said so. Thank you for helping us, Lord. Thank you for fighting the fight for us, for taking care of the slingers and the backbiters and the backstabbers, so that we don't have to and we can just focus on you. Lord, give me the wisdom, the strength, the courage to keep on fighting the good fight, to keep on living on that level, up here with you in a godly way. We ask you to bless us in this and all things, in the mighty name of your Son Jesus, and all God's people, even the rock slingers, said, amen. It's great being here with you. I love coming out here on Sunday. It gets me going. I'm fired up. Next week we're going to be back. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to do something next week all about the various names of God. I'm already working on it. It's just going to be great. I love y'all. I appreciate you coming out here with me. You know, you give me so much energy and power and strength, and I derive it all from you and from your love and from the great things you send out and say about me, and I appreciate it. I truly do. I want you to remember this. God is going to see you through, and I'm going to pray for you. This is Modern Word Ministries, where you can come as you are, but you'll never be the same. Every week, 10 o'clock, Sunday morning, modernwordministries.org. Until next week, God bless you. I love y'all. Bye-bye, everybody.